Hey guys, it's Christine, also known as Ivy Winter. Thank you for joining me for another video. It is not a Disney video today, but it's one that I was interested in making and I kind of threw out there, and apparently some of you guys were interested too. So recently I did the 23andMe Ancestry DNA test, and I did this because my dad came to town a couple of weeks ago, which was awesome. So my dad actually doesn't live in New York or in the country anymore. The short version of the story is my dad remarried several years ago. Some of you guys know my mom passed about 12 years ago now. And so he remarried, and he married a woman from Colombia, and so he retired and eventually moved to Colombia. So I probably see him once a year because that trip is expensive, but when he comes he usually stays for several weeks, which is awesome. We had a great time through Thanksgiving, and he was like, hey, you know what I've always wanted to do was one of these ancestry tests. And I was like, whoa, Dad, same wavelength, because I've been saying to my husband Peter for months that I wanted to do one of these tests. My brother-in-law did it like last year, and I thought it was really neat. And I've always wanted to do it, but just like didn't really want to spend the money, didn't really like get around to doing it. So they had this big like Black Friday sale, which was, or it was actually just like before Black Friday. And if you got 2 or more kits, they were $49 each. So basically a full kit for Ancestry DNA is usually $100, $99. And so we were getting them for half price. We actually did 3 kits, one for me, one for him, and one for my husband, who has not done his. It is sitting in a drawer upstairs right now. I have money riding on this that he's just gonna forget for like weeks. He put it in a drawer and I was like, you're never gonna remember to do this. And I literally have like $5 bet that he's not gonna do it by this weekend. So we'll see. But my father did it after I did, so I'm still waiting on his results. But my results came in, and they came in early. And that was really exciting because they said it was going to happen on December 10th, and they actually came in on December 2nd. So it was really cool to get them 8 days early. So the process, before I get into all of that, is they send you this kit, and we actually had it expedited because my dad wanted to be able to do it and mail it before he went back to Colombia. So we did expedited shipping. It came very fast. I mailed it on Thanksgiving, which obviously it wasn't picked up until the Friday after, and I think I got my kit like the Monday following, so really fast, especially for a holiday weekend. And the kit comes with like this little vial with a funnel in it, and you spit into that funnel. Yes, it is as gross as it sounds, but it's not as hard as it sounds. For some reason I thought like they were gonna ask for an astronomical amount of spit, and I had no idea how I was gonna do this, but really you need like this much. You can't eat for 30 minutes before, or drink anything for 30 minutes before, I guess not to contaminate the vial. And then you ship it off to them in a pre-labeled box that comes, like basically is the box you got it in, and then you wait. And they give you these email updates about where your DNA is in testing. Like they've received the sample, they've like done whatever to the sample. I don't know, there's a lot of steps to it. I'm not a scientist, but they kind of tell you where it's at, how long that process takes, and when you should expect your results. Like I said, they said December 10th, and I got them literally 8 days early, which is awesome. So that said, I'm gonna look through my results. I actually looked through them already because I wanted to sort of understand what I was looking at before I just jumped on camera and did like a reveal, because there's a lot going on, and so I wanted to be able to understand so I could explain it to you, especially if you've been thinking about doing this. I did not do the medical test, but you can upgrade at any time to it, which is cool. It was just more money, which is why I didn't do it. And the medical test is supposed to tell you if you are a carrier of certain genes that relate to certain diseases. It also says if you're likely to be like lactose intolerant or not, and things like that. So I can upgrade anytime. You do not have to send another sample. They have your DNA on file. Background before I get into it, what I know about my history. I am half Dominican and half Irish. My father is from Santo Domingo in the DR, straight from there. His whole family's from there. When we trace back a bit, we go back to Spain, which is very common for Hispanic heritage, but you know, pretty much 50% Dominican and 50% Irish. My mom was born here, so were my grandparents, but their parents were both from Ireland. So I know that there's that. I know there's some traces back to Britain. Other than that, that's all I really know. As in my head, I've always been 50-50, because I think that's just how we think of ourselves, right? Like, we really drill it down to the most simplest way of thinking of it and describing it to other people. You know, when people ask me, what are you? I say I'm Dominican and Irish, you know, that's it. These results have given me some really interesting things to think about in terms of what we really are and what we're really made up of, and sometimes it can be surprising. So I'm going to take some screenshots or like video of me on the website so you can see that here, so I'm not just talking at you, so you can see what that looks like. And the biggest one is your ancestry composition, right? That's like, where are you from? So when I look at this report, and I'm looking at it on mobile, which, by the way, mobile is great. I think desktop's a little bit better because you can kind of click around and see some cool things, but the mobile's pretty good too. So, I am apparently 79.5% European. That makes sense. Then I think, of course, what's that other 20.5%? Because as far as I know, all my roots go back to European roots. We'll get there. So, I am 36% British and Irish from Ireland and the United Kingdom. Totally makes sense. 16.3% Iberian, and what Iberian means is dating back to the Iberian Peninsula, which is usually Spain, Portugal, that whole thing. So again, makes sense. 2.1% Italian, which is super interesting. Never thought that any of my family came from there. There you go. 1.1% Ashkenazi Jewish, which kind of blew my mind. I know that's such a tiny amount, right? Like, in the grand scheme of things, that's like, whatever. But I never thought that I would get these results and see any Jewish, not a 0.01%. So that was really interesting to see as well. And then they have things like broadly Southern European, broadly Northwestern European. And when you click on that, they explain that these broad DNA matches several specific populations and is difficult to assign to just one. I did notice that when I looked deeper in, you can look at like the scientific side of things and see like what regions do they actually assign you to underneath all of these, and the only one they could pinpoint for me was Ireland and the UK. Like, even the Iberian DNA, they couldn't say like Spain, you know, which I thought was really interesting. They had a very hard time pinpointing the regions that my family was from on that side. But here's where things get interesting. 17% Sub-Saharan African. Now, there is that whole thing that everyone can go through their DNA and through their lifeline and get back to Africa, right? So it shouldn't be that big of a surprise that there is any African in me, but what is interesting is that the majority of it comes from coastal West Africa area. So I'm 4.4%, I hope I say this right, and I apologize, Senegambian and Guinean. And what they say is about 20% of African American ancestry is from this region. In addition to that, I'm 4% coastal West African, which is right next to that on the Gulf, and 3% Nigerian, which is right next to that. So that actually kind of makes sense. If I had ancestry from that area, they were probably there and spread out within, you know, the immediate area, but weren't exactly traveling all over Africa because probably at the time that they couldn't, right? It would just be too far of a trip. Everything else is a lot smaller, you know, 0.5, 0.4, 0.3%. But finding that out, that I literally have about 12.5% of me that is from coastal West Africa, that there's a part of that in me, is so fascinating. Like, that was where I was just like, whoa. I just would have never thought, you know, because again, we think of ourselves as such a simplified thing. I'm this and this, or I'm a quarter this and a quarter that and half this, you know. It goes further through that 1.3% Native American from Dominican Republic, which makes sense. And then pretty much nothing from Western Asia or North African. So that was my overall ancestry results, and they're really interesting. I actually sent this to my father, and what's cool about the website is I can connect with him. So when he has his account fully done and he gets his results, we can connect with each other and just log in and compare our DNA. Then they have this Neanderthal ancestry, which is like, what is your connection to Neanderthals, right? So here they say we've identified 237 genetic variants that can be traced to Neanderthals, ancient humans who interbred with modern humans before going extinct. Apparently I have less variants than 88% of people, so I don't have that much Neanderthal in me, I guess. That was interesting, but wasn't like as interesting, I think, as the main, you know, ancestry report was. And then they also give you your either your maternal or your paternal haplogroup, right? Which is basically tracing all the women in my family tree. Where does mine go back to? And you know, everyone has like this original ancestor, basically. So my haplogroup is called the U5A1B1, which sounds like a zombie disease. Apparently it's super common, so nothing revelatory there. The common ancestor is someone who lived in Europe during the Ice Age about 17,000 years ago. And then it goes through about, you know, what does that mean? How many people share this with you? Apparently 1 in 190 people descend from this maternal line, so like I said, not that exciting. Then they have this thing where they go, the Cheddar Man also belongs to U5A, and I was like, what is the Cheddar Man? Apparently he is the Britain's oldest complete human skeleton, so I am related to him in some sort of way. Weird. I feel like it's really interesting. I do think that $100 is a lot of money to pay for it. I get it though, like there is a lot of actual science going on behind this and a lab who is doing this, and I get that you're paying for that, you know, so I don't want to poo-poo that at all. But paying $49 for it was great. I think that was a great deal. It was really interesting. Like I said, I don't know if I'm gonna do the medical or not. I'm actually a little afraid to do the medical because they're supposed to tell you like if you might have late onset Alzheimer's or MS or stuff like that. And like, I don't know, like part of me wants to know and a part of me is like very freaked out by that. I think it's really interesting. I don't really know how it compares to like the Ancestry.com one or any of these other ones that are out there. I just know that I do really like the way the website works and how you can check everything out and that you can find other people related to you, as freaky as that might be. And I feel like I learned a little bit more about myself that I never would have thought. Like, who would have thought that I am part Nigerian? Would have never known. So I think that that in itself is interesting, right? Like I've got this information that I would have never otherwise known. So that said, if they have a deal and you want to do it, I would say go for it. I'm actually gonna put my referral link down below if someone's been interested. I believe it gets you 10% off, which is about $10 essentially. So if you're like, yeah, I wanna do it, it'd be really cool if you used my link. You definitely don't have to, but it will be in the description below. I would love to know, are you thinking about doing this? Have you done it already? Has someone you know done it? What did you think of the results? Did you think it was worth it? You can let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, then like it. If you like me, you should subscribe. I make videos every single week, and they're usually Disney, but sometimes I do one-off things like this because I just find it interesting. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of the day. Bye.